my channel is about education, examples, and citing your sources. I'm going to use Michelle as an example of what not to do, about how they complicate it. So she's typing at me in one of these YouTube things that I made, right? And there's another person calling themselves Michelle who's also typing, so I don't know which one's her. I was able to figure it out, but in that, I've got two people calling themselves Michelle typing at me. And yeah, I don't know which is which. And finally, when the first Michelle, I'm not sure if it's her or not, but it comes across as if it might be, and then I realized that it isn't, because she asks me how she can send me money, and Michelle Stewart had already sent me money. That's when Michelle Stewart got onto the Michelle Stewart account, but her name is completely different on Facebook than it is on YouTube. So now I have to remember three Michelles, because one of these Michelles is the one that was coming across and trying to be. I don't know what the intent was there. I really don't. But I know is that it wasn't the right Michelle. But it was in the video about Michelle Stewart, or Michelle Dolphin Nellard. And of course, this makes it very complicated for me, because here I am, I've got a whole bunch of Michelles already involved in the situation. People actually named Michelle. And then I've got another Michelle who's typing at me on my YouTube channel. And then the Michelle that I'm trying to be in contact with is got two different names that I have to try to remember. And I'm having communication in two and now three different places, because in text messaging, well, four now, because I also recorded our phone call. So I recorded our phone call, and there's the text messages, and then there's the Facebook messages, and then there's the stuff that was typed on my YouTube channel. And, you know, all of that together tells a more complete story. But when I can only show one little bit at a time, this is not saying Michelle's a bad person. This is what everyone and I end up going through. All right. I have to go through all of the different ways that I communicated with them and save that evidence, because I know they're not gonna. People just wanted to tell me what to think and what to feel, and to ignore it. Just ignore it. Just move along. Just move away. And of course, then people want to get hung up on one word. When they're telling me something that I've heard 100 times before, it's not actual help. Telling someone to let it go is not actual help, especially when you know nothing about the situation and the person is not allowed to let it go. They're not allowed. I let it go when I left Virginia in 2016. That should have been the end of it. When you say, Sean, sometimes you just need to learn to walk away. I walked away in 2016. Then you say stuff like, oh, well, you know, a real friend isn't going to abandon their friends. Well, all of my friends abandoned me. I didn't abandon Natalie Bollinger. And yeah, that's sure as shit what it felt like. I knew what situation I was leaving her to. I also knew that with her drug addiction, if I didn't get as far the fuck away from her as possible, that I was going to get blamed for anything that happened wrong in her fucking life. Not sure if you noticed, but as soon as somebody starts playing victim, I leave. I don't pursue them. I don't hunt them down like dogs and cut their heads off and feed them to their fucking kids. I don't go running around threatening to chop their dog's head off and fucking sticking it in their front yard. I don't threaten to skin their children alive. And mind you, those are things that Rebecca Gross-Nickel-Foley did. Why was she doing those things? Why was she venting that way? Well, because she was fucking human trafficked, dumbasses. She was raped repeatedly against her will. Yeah, she's gonna be fucking unhappy about that. And then she's got to go to the same cheese dick motherfucking pansy ass cunt rags that I got to go to for help. She's got to go to punk ass little bitches in Boulder, Colorado. That's where I know Rebecca Gross-Nickel-Foley from. I tried to work together with the other victims of my predators while they were busy showing bias and hatred and showing that, yes, it does matter what other people think. Between looking at evidence and what another person thinks, if what that other person thinks gives you an excuse to be cruel to somebody, you'll fucking take it. You've shown it time and again. And then those of you who want to keep on giving me the same advice over and over again, great advice! Do it with me, all right? That right there is what the law requires in order for someone like me to have justice. If you're busy arguing with me for 6 fucking years, making every excuse why you can't even try, you haven't even heard what I'm going through. And when I do try to show you what I'm going through, you blow me off with more pretty words. When you say you just need to let it go, I did let it go. I got completely the fuck away from it. I wasn't allowed to let it the fuck go. Just because I walked away doesn't mean that they don't fucking follow. I want you to go back in my videos and look at a video called Jamie Again. That's a video where a woman in Hood River named Jamie was shoved. She tried to get away from her predator. She yelled at him. That didn't work. She was walking away. That didn't work. He pursued her and socked her in the back of the fucking head. And if it hadn't been for me speaking up, she might have gotten hit a few more times. Their excuse for abusing her is that she's mentally ill. Between helping her and beating her up, they'd rather beat her up. And what the fuck did these mandated reporters do about it? Nothing, because I was trying to turn them in already. Some help you turned out to be. The most shameful ones are the ones who claim to be my friends before Natalie died. But there's a lot of them, like Dan Faber, I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe Layla Johnson, but she wouldn't talk to me. She knew, just like all these other people, wanted to go out of her way to only communicate in a way that was ineffective, that she knew was ineffective. Turns out, not only is she not autistic, she doesn't exist. In order to get all of this evidence, I had to buy a new computer because mine was stolen. I had to buy 2 new computers. There are witnesses to the situations where I bought the computers. When these people say, hey, Sean, you know, I did this, 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 and this. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. The cops said that you didn't do those things. And you never spoke up. In 6 years, you never spoke up. I said you did those things, and I got called schizophrenic, and you want to say and pretend like I didn't. Like none of those things that you claim to have done, like I pretended that you didn't do any of those things. No, I spoke up about the fact that you did those things. You didn't. You allowed the general public to continue to abuse me as if I was lying because you're a coward. Now then there's situations like with Michelle. Michelle isn't any of those assholes. But then again, Michelle wanted to type a bunch of shit at me. Her assumptions, without looking at evidence. Oh, well, you did this to these people, and you did this to those people. I exposed them for doing exactly what you're doing. So, maybe try to do yourself a side-by-side comparison there with what I'm complaining about with them and what I'm complaining about with you. Are you going to look at the evidence, or are you just going to assume the guilt of one party? Why would you just assume my guilt? It's because of your bias. You don't want to admit that you have bias. I can get that. I can understand that. Most of the time, I don't want to admit how scared shitless I am of women or white people. Any woman at any point in time, case in point with Molly, can make everyone's life a living fucking hell. She made my life a living hell. She made Alexander's life a living hell, and Tom's life a living hell. And she went and played victim, and people did fucked up shit to us over it. I have every goddamn right and reason to be afraid of women. They are taught to be this way in America. Women in the United States of America are taught to be biased. They are taught how to play on that bias. They are taught to pretend that only men can get horny when it suits them. They're taught that if they don't get what they want, that they play victim and it's magically okay because everybody's supposed to listen to a woman. Only a woman can be a victim. A man can't be. No matter what the law states, all of this is played off of bias. They're allowed to play off of bias if you don't fucking care. If you're just going to be fucking lip service. If you're just going to procrastinate for years. And then these people want to get a hold of me after they've blown me off and blown me off and blown me off. And then something happens. And then they go, well, why didn't you get a hold of me? Because you wouldn't do shit. I already knew you wouldn't do shit. I've already tried with you. You won't even tell the truth about the shit that's already happened. Why the fuck would I waste my time? The reason I post this stuff up is to show that these people wasted my time. I didn't waste my time. I utilized my time to try to get the help that I needed. I still need that same exact help. You telling me pretty words for 6 months, 6 years, whatever, doesn't matter. You have not been my friend. I spend most of my time out here in my car trying to avoid people like the fucking plague because they suck. I go into these businesses and I treat those people good and they treat me good. But I also know that I am only one opinion away from getting arrested. I am only one bad assumption from a pretty white girl away from losing every goddamn thing. And the more people procrastinate, the more difficult it is for me to keep my evidence. Over the last 6 years, you have any idea how much evidence has been fucking stolen? Evidence that should have been turned in. Evidence that I tried to turn in and had to turn in alone because all you wanted to do is fucking argue. I feel bad for Michelle. She's in a fucked up situation of her own now. I just got a message from a phone number I don't recognize, and it says video, so we'll see what it says. It's from James. He sent it out to a bunch of people, so it's probably in this video. The thing is that Michelle went and made the same mistakes and showed the same bias as everybody else. She's not different than them by much. The difference here is that she's willing to speak up, but you know what? I got to speak up too. If I fuck up, I got to admit that I fucked up. I told all of my worst sins on Facebook before Natalie was killed. You know what my worst sin? You know what it was? When I was 6 years old, I was in a place called Centennial Peaks outside of Boulder, Colorado. They didn't have any more foster homes to put me in. And they put me in Centennial Peaks, and I lied about my stepdad. I was angry. And I said that he molested me, and he didn't. He absolutely did not molest me. Michael Scott Wade never, ever, ever tried to lay a hand on me sexually. And although he did assault me on more than one occasion, I never fought back. In all three of those occasions, the only one where I did actually do something, I lifted him up. I picked him up over my head. I was fucking pissed off. Eric used to make fun of me. This is my older brother. He used to make fun of me all growing up because he'd piss me off and show his friends, hey man, my brother's got retard strength. Watch this. What a dick. But also, I was lifting weights over at Jepson's at the time. And Scott is pretty fucking scrawny and tiny. No, I wasn't big and muscular. But I was fit. He told me to let him go, so I let him go. He fucking hit the ground, fucked up his knee, told everybody he fucked it up in a basketball tournament. Yeah, Scott, someone's gonna believe. Nobody's gonna believe that. It's bullshit. It's pride that's standing in these people's way. Pride. Fuck your pride. You fucked up, admit it. And see, here's the thing about Michelle, is that she's an example of complication, about how one extra person getting involved becomes a whole bunch of extra complications. All of this messaging, 2.5 hours on the phone with her, it didn't help. She wanted to keep on pushing her bullshit. Because I was in a state of crisis. I must have been too fucking retarded to know what was going on. And every time she wanted to interrupt me to make the same fucking suggestion, holy Christ! I'm speaking the English language! I have the recording, it's over 2 hours long. I listened to it, I'm like, holy shit. This lady is literally deaf. She will acknowledge that I said something and literally forget it half a second later when she starts making the same suggestion again. How about you look? Instead of arguing, instead of pushing as if you're right no matter what, how about look? Look, actually look. Which means, look. Arguing with the victim doesn't get their predators turned in, and it doesn't get the evidence looked at. And that is what shows Caitlin Tatum to be what a horrible, abhorrent piece of shit that she is. Michelle's not a piece of shit like that. Michelle is just an added complication. And I'm not saying she's an added complication to say she's a bad person. I'm saying it because it's true. Now I got 3 extra Michelles, 3 extra last names. I can only remember one of them. The other one I only remember because of the Facebook thing. I mean, this is a complication. Now imagine that there are hundreds of people who are exactly that complication. I want Michelle to stop and take a look at how much time I have invested that she has been there for. All of that text messaging and typing. Yeah, she was there for that. She was text messaging and typing with me. Then there's the fact that she wanted to use other examples of me speaking out about people. Well, I told you I'd do that. I didn't mislead you. I wasn't dishonest about it. I told you I record everything. Now, the thing that I like about Michelle is that she's not trying to hide it. She's not. Some of the assumptions that I made were bad fucking assumptions, but they were based on her behavior. They were based on her word versus action ratio. How long have we been messaging each other, and how much have you tried to find out what's going on, as opposed to telling me about your personal life and why you can't? You shouldn't have gotten involved in that particular case. If you don't have the time, don't pretend that you will. If you do have the time to look up what you want to, well, you're not trying to help me. Now, me going to the FBI, having to go alone, her listening to that, she's able to tell that I had to make all those calls alone. She can hear how I was treated in those calls. There's also a bunch of calls that she doesn't have access to. And in order for me to be willing to send that stuff, she has to at least acknowledge the fact that I sent her a text message. The least she can do is let me know that she doesn't have time right now. She'll do it another day. And she said that she would do that, and she hasn't. So yeah, I speak up. It's not a matter of hatred. It's not a matter of retaliation. It's a matter of showing the truth, because that is what's going to change this. You people telling the truth. You're never going to do that. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.